Hey, what's up everyone, Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be comparing Andre de Grasse from the Prefontaine Classic in comparison to Andre de Grasse in the Olympic trials where he came third in comparison to when he came first, and just give a little bit better understanding of what are some of the differences here. The big thing that he was able to accomplish here yesterday was he ran 10.74, and so we want to go a little bit more into that, and we're going to start the video right now. All right, so the big thing that I like to focus on when going into these videos is really just the objective side of things. So where are the numbers behind the differences between what Andre de Grasse did before when he was at the Olympic trials here on, the left in comparison to what he was able to accomplish yesterday. Yeah, there was some additional wind, so it's going to definitely make an impact on probably how much distance or how many steps that he was able to take when he was actually sprinting yesterday. But, still even looking at something like, to me, going into it, the start ended up being a big difference. So we look here on the left, he just didn't get out near as well, and we can take a look at some of the numbers here. So, he lands at 0.83, he's off at 0.0, which is good. 4.0. So his left leg, he's at about 0.17 there on the first step. He was at about 0.1, and then he was about 0.13 on the third step, pretty quick. And that's the big thing, is that, he started off with a bit of a difference here. I don't think he being in the 8th lane is a great thing for him. Just because he really started off late, and I think he ended up kind of rushing himself through the drive phase because he ended up having being out behind at the very beginning, and that ends up impacting you. Where if we look at on the right, and we'll see where he was, 5.3, he's off at 0.7, about the same, 8.0-ish, a little bit later on that one. Yeah, so this one it was probably about 0.17, 0.13, and then 0.13. So actually a little bit more time, and I think he was able to stay patient longer. So we look to see on the third step here, and when he's off the third step, his body position in comparison to at the Olympic trials. Again, I just feel like from this point, he really ended up trying to rush through his drive phase because he felt like he was, off to a slow start in comparison to the other guys. And we know that, Prefontaine had a great start in the semifinals, ended up winning his heat because he was able to get out to a great start. Basically everybody in this, race is a pretty good starter. Fred Kerley's not great. Marcel Jacobs isn't great. The guys that end up actually winning are guys that aren't, notoriously great starters. Or I think that what Andre de Grasse did is he ended up picking himself up, whereas like Fred Kerley stayed very, very patient through this and ended up even being in a not bad position. I think it helped him out. Like Prefontaine, who is typically a great starter, Fred Kerley probably went in with the mindset like I need to stay even with him or in front of him because he knows he can catch him at the end. So, at this point, he was probably really happy with that being in that location where it's like Andre de Grasse is way behind. Now, if we look to see in the Prefontaine Classic, Andre de Grasse is staying in a position where he's up with Fred Kerley, he's right even with Trayvon Bromell, right? So he's in a really good spot here to now be able to get through his drive phase. And here he's still in his drive phase, where in the Olympics, it looks like he really quickly, got his head up and got into his top end speed phase. So right here, he's already in his top end speed phase. And yeah, he ended up being able to catch all these guys at the end. But I think part of it had to do with just not having a good start. I think he really got through that start early, wasn't able to get through the drive phase, and then when he came on hard, because, he, probably at this point right here, he's in last place. There's never a point in the Prefontaine Classic where he was in last place, right? And it's undoubtedly right now that I don't think there's anybody that has, the same top speed as him. Maybe, Noah Lyles is in that same conversation, but to me, Andre de Grasse is at top speed, probably the fastest guy right now. Yeah, he didn't win the Olympic gold, but I think that had to do more with his start because at the end here, he definitely is catching Lamont Jacobs. He is, and Fred Kerley, right? So I don't think there's anybody that could beat him in a race one-on-one. Let's see what his foot contact time is. Let's go more on top speed here. And he lands with his foot a little bit more out in front, 0.13. He's off by, 0.22, so he's at about 0.09, 3.7. So he's way faster on his left leg. Lands at about 0.35, and then it's off by 0.43. So he's closer to like 0.07 to 0.08 left leg. I'm going to quickly interrupt this video just to say if you like the information, go ahead and click that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to hop right back in the video. And then he's like closer to 0.09, maybe even 0.1 on the right leg. So there's definitely a difference with his stride there. We'll see where he's at in the Olympics. Here he's looking like he's almost leaning forward a little bit more. He's not as upright. 2.7, a little bit quicker. I would say he's at about 0.08 on the left here. Yeah, and he's at about 0.08 on the contact time on the other side too. So he's a little bit even, at the Olympics. It almost seems like he, at this point, is actually running better in the Olympics than he is in the Prefontaine Classic, even though he ran a better time in the Prefontaine Classic. I think that, from a mechanic perspective, I think he was just able to probably get a little bit more, distance on each one of his steps because of that wind, probably helped him out a little bit. But I still love, he does such a great job of getting that foot out in front and landing out in front with him, himself in that position. I do want to really quickly go into, when we look to see when he's running from the front side, and really all these guys, if we zoom in, they, holding that dorsiflexion is important as you come through, but then as you come close to the ground, you do have that time where you go into a bit of plantar flexion. And I do think that's an important thing for you guys to be able to understand if you're looking to try to improve your speed, is there is a point where it's like, as you're driving down towards the ground, you do lose a little bit of that plantar flexion or that dorsiflexion to be able to really create that quick leg cycle as you're basically attacking the ground, right? You're really coming hard down towards the ground, and as you do that, you do want to almost reach a little bit with that toe, and it doesn't want to end up making it so you're overly extended within that toe. But I do think it is something to start to recognize and start to be able to teach in athletes that are trying to get faster, is that you are holding that dorsiflexion, but then as you really sweep through, you lose it a little bit as you're touching the ground, and that helps, I think, in being able to be a little bit quicker off the ground. And I think that's what makes him, especially on that left leg, you can see how quick he is as he transitions off that left leg, because he has that little bit better, kind of reach there, and then he's able to transition off so quickly. And I see that with Usain Bolt too. All these top guys, they have a bit of a time period where they lose that dorsiflexion, reach out towards the ground a little bit, and I think that makes a big difference in being able to create that quick foot contact time and also that quicker turnover time. So as always, guys, if you like the information, go ahead and click that thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, you can leave those down below. Always recommend you guys getting these speed breakdowns. I think it makes a big difference in really understanding where in your mechanics are you making flaws from that technical level. I'm big on numbers. Let's look to see what your contact time is, what your transition time is, or time spent off the ground, and just make a big impact on improving in that area. And then also seeing how many steps that you take within a 40-yard dash, a 60-yard dash, 100 meter, a 200 meter, we can get into the nitty gritty of seeing where are you on the spectrum of, if we're trying to make improvements, we can't do it from a subjective standpoint. We have to do it from an objective standpoint to me, and being able to do that not only with sprinters, but also quarterbacks, pitchers, everybody. I want to make it so there's a number-based system that makes it so we can actually make improvements and not keeping it subjective. I think too much right now is all subjective, and things that we're hoping ends up making a difference. And, at the end of the day, it matters with the numbers. The numbers don't care about your feelings. It is only about the facts and keeping the objectivity behind it. And that's really what I do with the speed breakdown and the speed program. That's why you can guarantee you're going to get faster, because at the end of the day, when it comes to speed, the way that we track speed is through time, right? We want to actually look at the time. So why aren't we breaking it down into smaller, more understandable, and potentially impactful numbers, which are going to be the full contact time and the time spent off the ground? When we can really get to the nitty gritty of those, now we know how you can train and what are the exercises and drills that you need to work on in order to actually make improvements. But until you understand that, you're really not going to be able to make a big change or make big improvements within your running. So hopefully that makes sense. And if it does, check out the links in the description. Want to be able to give you better access to that and make sure that you're able to really make some big improvements within your sprinting form overall. So again, guys, thanks for watching. If you're still watching right now and haven't clicked that thumbs up, go ahead and do that now. That really helps us out a ton. And we'll talk to you soon.